Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to our read-along of Frank Herbert's science fiction masterpiece, Dune. We are well along the way towards the end. We're doing it chapter by chapter, even though the chapters aren't specifically designated as such. Every one of the three sections of the book has smaller sections that are a few pages long. Those will count as chapters, and I'm just identifying them by a portion of the first line. And this is the story set in a far future Imperium of the downfall of a noble house. This far future Imperium is ruled by an emperor who has shock troops of unbeatable warriors called the Sardaukar. And there is a group of houses, noble houses, minor houses, houses, basically think the Italian Renaissance, where some of the houses have nobility and bloodlines going back for centuries. Others are more modern and more mercantile, commercial things where their titles were bought in the open economy of this imperium. And all of these things are knitted together. This whole imperium, these many planets, keep in mind all of them are light years away from each other. All of that is made possible. All of that is knitted together by faster than light travel, which is monopolized. Those noble houses, that emperor, they do not have faster than light spaceships. There's only one thing that does. The Spacing Guild has faster than light spaceships. And they charge a premium for it. And the reason that faster than light travel is possible at all in this future is because the guild navigators are able to use a limited kind of heightened future-telling of prescience to map out the pathways that faster-than-light ships can take that will be safe, so that you don't end up at the end of your destination rematerializing inside a star or trying to transit your way through a massive asteroid belt or a field of dark matter or whatnot. And their prescience is in hand. The reason for all of that, the reason why all of that is necessary, is because this entire Imperium exists under something called the Butlerian Jihad. The Butlerian prohibition against basically what we would consider computer intelligence, AI, which could otherwise plot those things itself. Instead, people do those things. And the thing that makes the guild's prescience possible is a subject called melange. It's a substance called melange. It's a spice that enhances prescience in certain people. It's extremely addictive. It lengthens life. It provides peripheral degrees of immunity against certain kinds of poison. It enhances other abilities as well. The Spacing Guild is not the only society in this Imperium that benefits from using melange, the spice melange. The Bene Gesserit, for instance, an all-female society of super nuns, they also benefit from it. It unlocks their communal memories. And that spice is available on only one place. It cannot be manufactured artificially. It exists only on the planet Dune, on the sands of the planet Dune, where it is guarded by monstrously huge and ferocious worms. So mining the spice on Dune is extremely dangerous, but also extremely lucrative. There is nothing more valuable in the entire galaxy than this substance. And for a while, a disreputable, one of those mercantile bought their honors house, the House Harkonnen, has been in charge of the planet Dune, mining spice, paying tribute to the Emperor, doling out, storing up, saving money, making lots of money, etc., etc., and they're brutal. They run the entire planet, at least the limited parts of Dune that are habitable by humans, as little better than a slave camp. Extremely repressive, especially towards the wild people of Dune, the Fremen, who live out in the desert. When all of a sudden, the Emperor orders House Atreides, an old and noble house, to take over the planet Dune from House Harkonnen, and orders House Harkonnen to leave. An insane order, and something that Duke Leto Atreides, the leader of House Atreides, knows immediately is a trap. Obviously, why would the Emperor want to hand House Atreides that kind of power, and why would the Harkonnens leave it willingly, even at the Emperor's order? But he doesn't see that he has a choice but to do it. So he leads his family, he takes his family to the planet Arrakis, the planet Dune. He takes his consort, the Lady Jessica, who is a Bene Gesserit. He takes his son and heir, Paul Atreides, a young teenage boy. He takes his various war masters, his mentat, Thufir Hawat. Keep in mind, humans have to do the functions of computer intelligence or AI. Mentats are the equivalent of calculating machines or computers. He takes Thufir Hawat. He takes his war masters, Gurney Halleck and Duncan Idaho. And he has a dream. They all have a dream for Dune. Not just to survive whatever traps the Harkonnens leave for them, but also maybe, just possibly, to train the Fremen into a super soldier fighting force of their own, something that might even be the equal of the Sardaukar. When Duke Leto and his entourage are headed to Dune, they have no idea that actually Fremen can handily defeat Sardaukar in combat already, without combat training. But it doesn't happen. The trap is too great. As the Atreides people are told, Baron Harkonnen is just too powerful a foe, especially since his forces are shored up secretly by legions of Sardaukar. The Emperor also wants to use this change of venue, of fiefdom, to destroy House Atreides and to make it look like the squabbling between two houses without his hand in it at all. So House Atreides falls and is scattered to the winds. Duke Leto himself dies. Paul and Jessica flee into the desert. They get temporary help from an imperial planetologist who has come to admire the Atreides. They get a little bit of help, ironically enough, from the family doctor who ended up betraying them. He can't live with his conscience and leaves a certain amount of help behind for them. And they also get help from the Duke's swordsmaster, Duncan Idaho, who seems to sacrifice his life to buy Jessica and Paul time to escape even deeper into the desert. And we have seen chapters where we learn the subsequent fate of some of these other people. Thufir Hawat is a mentat. Mentats are supposed to be as unemotional as actual computers. So when Baron Harkonnen's forces capture him, Baron Harkonnen thinks, well, he's a mentat and my mentat is dead and I need a mentat, so I'll use him. Seems not to care about what 70 years of loyalty to the House Atreides might do to a man. He seems not to seems to discount it at all. Baron Harkonnen always says he hates to waste good material, so he basically employs Thufir Hawat, poisons him, so that he can't live except at the Baron's will. But he employs him and gives him full access to information. We learn that Gurney Halleck has joined up with the smugglers who have always conducted a booming business in and around Arrakis. Gurney Halleck will not leave Dune because he was sworn in loyalty to House Atreides, but he's also sworn in vengeance to one of Baron Harkonnen's nephews, Beast Rabban. He owes a massive personal score to settle with this one person who is now the repressive governor of Dune. So Gurney Halleck can't leave. He is sticking around with smugglers and a handful of old Atreides fighting men. And, of course, Paul and Jessica eventually find a sympathetic group of Fremen, make their way, become valuable, work their way up, time passes, word seeps out to Baron Harkonnen and also to the broader Imperium about a new religious movement on Dune, popular with the Fremen, and a religious leader called Muad'Dib. Nobody knows anything about him. But the Baron thinks, why not let them have it? The surest way to make a martyr out of a religious figure is to hunt and kill them. So just let them do it. But if it will make things any easier for my repressive rule, then I'll let them do it. Unbeknownst to everyone, Muad'Dib is Paul Atreides, who has achieved a level of messianic control over the Fremen that he did not anticipate except in his wildest flights of prescience, that his mother didn't like and never expected, that no one saw this Lawrence of Arabia figure coming. And in the chapter that we're looking at today, it follows on directly from the last one, where Paul has just learned how to ride a sandworm. It turns out that one of the ways that the Fremen exercise what Paul's father referred to as desert power is to ride these enormous carnivorous sandworms. They've developed a method. It's very dangerous, but it can allow them to travel vast, vast distances that are not really open to any other kind of travel. Dune is extremely prone to sandstorms and dust storms that can strip metal. So you can't fly an ornithopter into such a storm or in such latitudes. So the Fremen have those all to themselves because they can ride these worms for vast spaces, vast stretches of journeys. Paul has just learned how to do that. He has just successfully gone through the trial of doing that for the first time, unaided, when the band of Fremen that he's with spots a smuggler craft, an aircraft. And they decide, well, it's never a bad time to teach smugglers a lesson. So they bait a trap. They coat a very thin layer of surface sand with spice sign, thinking this will attract the smugglers, and it does. The smugglers set their craft down and want to quickly harvest the sand, quickly harvest the spice. That's what they do. They smuggle spice. And with this band of smugglers is Gurney Halleck and a group of his own men. And they are confronted right away by the trap and are surrounded by Fremen who start to kill them. Combat erupts. And in the midst of that combat is one of the most famous scenes in the book, where Paul Atreides is, of course, with them. They're all burnoosed and masked and whatnot. But what's the matter, baby? Get down there. You can do it. There you go. Paul spots Gurney Halleck and reveals himself. And they are both stunned, and they grasp each other and pound each other's backs right there in the middle of the fighting. Gurney Halleck finally calls off his men, who are not happy with the fact that they don't get to fight to the end. And it turns out that Gurney Halleck, the appearance of Gurney Halleck, is the pebble that starts an avalanche for Paul Atreides. The appearance of Gurney Halleck conversing with Gurney again, Gurney's visible realization that this is now my Duke. The old Duke is dead. This is the Duke Atreides. That Paul is not dead, and also, as Gurney learns to his astonishment later in this chapter, that not only is Paul not dead, but that Paul is Muad'Dib. That does something to Paul. Before now, the Fremen have been content with harrying Harkonnen outposts and Harkonnen flights in the deep deserts, as deep as the Harkonnen will go. Suddenly, the appearance of Gurney Halleck here on the open sand changes something in Paul. The Fremen take Gurney's men captive, the ones that are alive. They take him captive. They honor Gurney Halleck. They've heard his name. But they take his men captive. They bring them back to a temporary sanctuary of theirs. And it turns out very quickly that some of those men, 3 of the men in Gurney Halleck's band, are actually Sardaukar, who had hidden themselves among the smugglers in order to get word, in order to learn about both smuggling and also this mysterious Muad'Dib. Gurney had his suspicions, but he didn't know which individual people were which. Now, of course, the Sardaukar are no match for the Fremen. Paul doesn't want to kill the leader of the Sardaukar. He wants him to carry word. Outside. Tell a little bit about what you've seen here. But that confrontation, face-to-face confrontation with the Sardaukar at long last, after years, plus Gurney's arrival, does something to Paul. Suddenly he realizes, those raids that we're doing, the war is not there. There's no point in doing that anymore. We should change our tactics. We should strike here, where the enemy is. And this is the hinge. The book has been moving along. It's been building, putting its pieces in place. And now with this hinge, we go downhill in a rush to the climax of this book. The one extra element as we end this chapter has a disturbing echo with an element that we had in an earlier chapter when we meet Thufir Hawat in the employ of Baron Harkonnen. When we see what's become of Thufir Hawat, we see them talking. Thufir Hawat has nothing but contempt for Baron Harkonnen. Nevertheless, he is there to give information and to draw mentat conclusions. But in his mind, he is burning with a desire that has nothing to do with the Harkonnen. He's burning with desire to exact revenge on the person who betrayed the Duke. And he thinks that person is Jessica. And at the end of the chapter that we're reading today, we realize that Gurney Halleck also thinks that traitor is Jessica and is also burning with desire for revenge. They don't know. Neither one of them knows who the traitor was. They assume it was her. And that is where we end this time around. Everything has changed. Paul's thinking has changed because Gurney Halleck is back in the picture. Because suddenly he's thinking about using desert power instead of simply amassing it. So it's going to be rapid fire from here on out. I have said in our read along of this book this time around, I've said a few times that a couple of chapters aren't much. They're great because Herbert is great, but they're not much on their own. Examining them in the way they work in the broader book, there aren't any other chapters like that. So we'll move on to the next one next time with a lot more to cover. So I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll see you then. Thank you, BookTube.